The strange case of Lauren Brittany Dumolo. The mysterious disappearance of Lauren Brittany Dumolo remains one of the most troubling unsolved cases in Cape Coral, marking more than 5 years since she was last seen. Her absence has left a deep ache within her family, her friends, and a community that has refused to let her story fade. Lauren, who was 29 years old at the time, lived with her boyfriend in a home on Coronado Parkway. On the 18th of June, 2020, she spoke with her sister Cassie during the early evening hours and later visited a convenience store to apply for a job. Everything seemed ordinary, but by the following morning, a chain of unsettling discoveries revealed that something was terribly wrong. On the 19th of June, 2020, Lauren was reported missing. Her purse was found at 4 Freedoms Park, a beloved spot where she often went to clear her mind and connect with nature. Her phone, however, remained inside her apartment. From that moment forward, she was listed as an endangered missing person, and efforts to locate her began immediately. What makes her disappearance especially haunting is that there have been no confirmed sightings, no confirmed movements, and no solid answers about where she may have gone after leaving her home. Lauren was described as standing between 5 feet and 5 feet 2 inches tall, weighing between 110 and 120 pounds, with light brown hair that blended blonde tones with darker roots, and thoughtful brown eyes. She also had several distinctive tattoos, including the word Namaste on her right side, a symbol on her wrist, an NY emblem on her pelvis, and rosary beads along her ankle. These identifying details were widely shared by law enforcement and community groups in the hopes that someone might recognize her or recall a crucial detail. Over the years, the search for Lauren has continued with steady determination. Law enforcement has worked tirelessly, following each new lead, revisiting earlier details, and urging the public to remain alert. Community members, volunteers, and even strangers with compassionate hearts have joined the effort, refusing to let her story fade into silence. In October of 2021, thousands of postcards were mailed to residents near her home in hopes of uncovering new information. In June of 2022, despite heavy rain, a vigil was held at 4 Freedoms Park to honor Lauren and remind the community that she still has not been found. Through every passing year, the message has remained the same. Lauren deserves to be brought home, and her loved ones deserve answers. The search continues, grounded in hope and strengthened by the unwavering belief that her story still matters. The strange case of Paul Sanders. The disappearance of 17-year-old Paul Sanders remains one of the most heartbreaking and unsettling mysteries in the state of Arizona. Paul, who had recently moved from Missouri in the hopes of starting a new chapter of his life, vanished in August of the year 2001 while living with his biological father, Robert Brewer, and his stepmother, Lori Beavers Brewer, at their home on East Carroll Avenue in Mesa. What began as a hopeful attempt for Paul to reconnect with family and attend high school in Globe soon transformed into an enduring mystery that has left loved ones searching for answers for more than 2 decades. Paul was last reported to have left his father's home on the 11th of August in Robert Brewer's Chevy Silverado pickup. The following day, on the 12th of August, Paul was seen for the final confirmed time. He had visited his grandmother in Globe, Arizona, an hour east of Mesa, and was later observed driving away from her home. Nothing seemed out of place during this visit, and Paul appeared to be going about his usual routine. However, what followed in the days ahead created a troubling chain of unanswered questions. On the 14th of August, the same pickup truck Paul had been driving was involved in a minor traffic collision in Tucson. When officers attempted to make contact, the truck unexpectedly sped away and successfully evaded law enforcement. No one was able to confirm who was behind the wheel. The following morning, the abandoned truck was found crashed along the side of the Santa Catalina Mountains, east of Tucson. Inside the vehicle, investigators discovered Paul's wallet, cell phone, and driver's license tucked beneath the seat. The presence of these items raised concerns, as they were things he would not likely have willingly left behind. In the days following Paul's disappearance, additional troubling details emerged. Robert Brewer discarded all of Paul's belongings from the Mesa home soon after his son vanished, leaving friends, relatives, and investigators confused and troubled by the decision. Despite this, the search continued, and law enforcement worked to account for Paul's movements and relationships during his time in Arizona. Paul had relocated to Globe for the 2000 to 2001 school year to live with his grandmother and attend high school. His mother, Angela Rice, had begged him not to leave Missouri, but Paul wished to be closer to both his grandmother and his father. Investigators later confirmed that Paul had been well liked at Globe High School. He had no conflicts with classmates and was not involved in any troubling relationships that could explain his disappearance. In the years that followed, the family dynamics surrounding the case continued to shift. Lori Beavers divorced Robert in the year 2005 after her children reached adulthood. She still resides in the same home from which Paul vanished. Robert himself was later arrested in 2009 in connection with a series of bank robberies in Mesa and Gilbert, eventually serving time before his release in 2019. Paul's mother, Angela, carried the weight of her son's disappearance for nearly 2 decades. In the year 2020, overwhelmed by grief, she passed in a tragic act of despair, leaving behind a legacy of love and a longing for answers that she never received. Paul was described as standing 5 feet 8 inches tall and weighing around 150 pounds, with short black hair, hazel eyes, a clean-shaven face, and the name Hernandez tattooed across his upper back. His disappearance remains an open and active case, and those who knew him continue to hope that one day the truth of what happened to him will finally be understood. The mystery of Kevin McGrath. The mysterious disappearance of Kevin McGrath remains one of the most unsettling cases in recent memory, a situation made even more distressing by the fact that it unfolded during what was meant to be a joyful family celebration. At 26 years old, Kevin was a United States Army veteran, a young father of 2, and someone who had already experienced far more in life than most people his age. He had served his country for 6 years, completing demanding deployments in Afghanistan, Iraq, and Syria. After returning home, he and the mother of his children went their separate ways, and his children lived with his former partner in Tennessee. Despite the challenges life had brought him, Kevin remained devoted to his family, and when the opportunity came to celebrate his father's 60th birthday on a cruise, he joined 43 loved ones for what should have been a memorable holiday. The group boarded the Carnival cruise ship Conquest in Miami, Florida on the 1st of September, in time for a long Labor Day weekend trip to the Bahamas. The atmosphere was warm, festive, and filled with anticipation. For the first 2 days, everything unfolded as expected. Kevin spent time with his family, relaxed, and enjoyed activities on board. His father, Sean McGrath, later recalled speaking with him on the evening of the 3rd of September, around 10 o'clock at night. He had stopped by Kevin's cabin to give him luggage tags and reminded him to meet everyone the next morning for breakfast at 7:30. Kevin was last seen by his twin brother, Andre, during the early morning hours of the 4th of September, at roughly 2 o'clock. Footage captured on a cell phone that night showed Kevin dancing to live music, appearing cheerful and fully engaged in the celebrations. At around 3:30 that same morning, his cabin keycard was scanned, confirming that he returned to the room he shared with Andre. The ship was already on its way back to Miami by this time, heading toward the end of the voyage. Andre later reported that he believed he heard Kevin leave the room sometime between 5 o'clock and 7 o'clock, though he was not fully awake and could not be entirely certain. When the family gathered for breakfast at 7:30, Kevin never arrived. At first, there was no immediate concern. It was reasonable to think he might have overslept or gone for a walk. But once the ship docked at 10:15 that morning at North America Way in Miami and passengers began to disembark, it became clear that something was terribly wrong. Kevin's pass had not been scanned to exit the ship, and he was nowhere to be found. Kevin's disappearance was swiftly reported to the Miami-Dade Police Department. A massive search was launched, involving the Port of Miami, the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission, the United States Coast Guard, and Carnival staff. Authorities examined land and water across the areas where the ship had traveled. They reviewed surveillance footage, combed through the ship, and spoke with passengers, crew members, and Kevin's family. Despite these efforts, not a single trace of Kevin could be found. One of the most puzzling aspects of the case was the cruise ship's overboard alarm system. This system is designed to activate if someone falls from the ship, yet it never triggered at any point during the morning of the 4th of September. Furthermore, There was no recorded scan of Kevin leaving the ship voluntarily. His whereabouts simply could not be accounted for. Even as speculation spread online, Kevin's father emphasized that authorities had confirmed no sign of an overboard event and no surveillance showing him leaving the vessel. As weeks passed without answers, the weight of uncertainty became overwhelming for Kevin's family. 1 month after Kevin vanished, his father publicly acknowledged that the longer time went on, the harder it became to believe that Kevin would be found safe. Yet even in his grief, he continued to search for clarity. He expressed the simple but heartbreaking question shared by anyone who has loved someone who vanished. Where could he possibly be? Media attention later revealed that Kevin had been on probation at the time of the cruise and had reportedly not been granted permission to travel. He had relocated to Florida to live with his parents in Port St. Lucie and had been attempting to rebuild his life. Yet none of this information shed light on what happened during those early morning hours on the 4th of September. Today, Kevin's disappearance remains unsolved, suspended in a painful silence between what is known and what may never be discovered. His family continues to seek answers, holding on to hope that someday they will learn the truth of what happened during that final night aboard the Carnival Conquest. The mystery of Dale Kerstetter. The mystery of Dale Kerstetter remains one of the most haunting and perplexing unsolved disappearances in modern American history. A case marked by an eerie blend of a missing person, an elaborate theft, and a trail of evidence that raises far more questions than answers. On the night of the 12th of September, 1987, 50-year-old Dale Kerstetter arrived for his overnight shift as a watchman at the Corning Glassworks plant in Bradford, Pennsylvania. He had worked for Corning for decades, knew the building intimately, and was widely regarded as dependable. Yet, by the next morning, he had vanished without a trace. When the morning guard, John Lindquist, arrived to relieve him, Dale was nowhere to be found. His belongings, however, remained exactly where one would expect to find them if his shift had been interrupted unexpectedly. His truck sat outside in the parking lot, with the keys still in the ignition. His lunch pail, with the meal untouched, his cigarettes, his newspaper, and the keys to the plant were all resting in the break room. Inside the truck, his gun holster lay empty, but the firearm itself was missing. There was also a backpack on the seat, one that his family insisted did not belong to him. The scene was both unsettling and confusing, offering no indication of what had happened to Dale or why he would have left in the middle of his shift without taking any of the items he used daily. A search of the enormous 112,000 square foot building began immediately. Police officers, plant employees, and search dogs combed through the plant and the surrounding woods, yet nothing suggested a struggle or pointed to a particular direction Dale might have gone. The dogs followed his scent to several areas, including an upstairs furnace room that was not typically part of his nightly rounds. Interestingly, the furnace had been unused for weeks, and there were no signs that it had been used to dispose of anything. Still, this room would later become important for another reason entirely. Not long after the initial search, the situation took a darker turn when officials reviewed the security footage from the night Dale disappeared. The grainy black and white recording revealed a masked intruder inside the plant. Around 11 o'clock that night, Dale was seen facing this figure in what appeared to be a brief but calm exchange. The nature of their interaction could not be determined from the footage. Neither man appeared outwardly aggressive, yet the moment carried an unmistakable sense of unease. Later in the footage, Dale was spotted once more, this time walking alongside the masked man and descending the second floor. In the last recorded image of him, Dale looked directly at the camera. This single glance has been analysed for decades. Some believe it was a cry for help, a subtle attempt at signalling that he was in trouble. Others interpret the look as resignation or even complicity. No one has been able to settle the question definitively. The mysterious visitor, however, was seen again. At approximately 10 minutes before 1 in the morning, nearly 2 hours after Dale last appeared on camera, the masked intruder wheeled a heavy-looking bag through the plant. To this day, no one knows what the bag contained. Investigators speculated that it held stolen platinum, or something far more tragic. The fact that Dale never reappeared in the footage, combined with the timing of the intruder's movements, led some detectives, such as Max Bizak, to suspect that whatever happened to Dale occurred after the camera captured the two men walking together. Further examination revealed the thief had removed a large quantity of platinum from the plant's glass furnace, cutting out pure platinum piping valued at roughly $250,000. This specific type of platinum was capable of withstanding extremely high temperatures and was exceptionally valuable. Notably, this was not the first time a Corning facility had been targeted. Several similar thefts had occurred in previous years, although none had involved a missing employee. This made Dale's case stand out even more. Theories quickly emerged. Patrick Foley, a personnel manager at Corning, went on record suggesting Dale may have participated willingly, fueled by financial stress after recent pay cuts. However, this assessment clashed sharply with the character described by friends, family, and colleagues. Dale had served in the Air Force, was known as a devoted father, and was widely considered dependable and kind. He had once saved multiple co-workers during an emergency. He brought groceries to families who were struggling. Co-workers were shocked that anyone, especially a supervisor, would refer to him as marginal or imply he would abandon his loved ones. Although authorities learned Dale had some debt, his family insisted the portrayed amount, around $40,000, was an exaggeration. They said Dale had savings, investments, and enough financial stability to manage his obligations without resorting to something drastic. Still, even they acknowledged that the frustrating combination of recent pay cuts and work stress might have made him vulnerable to a bad decision or manipulation. Yet Dale's actions that night did not resemble those of someone attempting to flee. If he had willingly taken part in the crime, why leave his lunch, truck, cigarettes, and every personal item behind? Why leave the keys in the ignition? Why not take his belongings or prepare in any meaningful way? The only missing item was his firearm, an unsettling detail in itself. As years passed, more tantalizing elements surfaced. Dale's daughter, Penny, learned from one of her father's acquaintances that Dale may have conspired with a co-worker named Ollie, who had since passed away. According to this acquaintance, Dale had overheard conversations suggesting the platinum theft would be easy. The theory held that he may have been double-crossed, with his co-conspirator eliminating him to avoid sharing the reward. Another inmate independently contacted police, alleging Dale's remains were hidden in a gas well, a disturbing but specific detail echoed by the earlier acquaintance. Searches of gas wells, however, turned up nothing. Adding to the mystery, experts who later cleaned and enhanced the security footage discovered that the masked figure appeared in two widely separated parts of the plant within too short a time, suggesting the presence of at least two intruders. This raised the possibility of a coordinated operation rather than a crime of opportunity. Corning's possession of platinum was widely known in the surrounding community, meaning that anyone, not just employees, could have planned the theft. This made narrowing the suspect list extraordinarily difficult, and with the deterioration of the original footage, captured on aging security tapes and improperly stored, critical details were lost forever. Decades later, Dale Kerstetter's disappearance remains a chilling mystery, one part possible inside job and one part unanswered tragedy. The stolen platinum was never recovered. Dale's remains were never found. And for his family, the unanswered questions linger painfully, suspended in the unsettling space between hope and the painful acknowledgement that Dale likely met a tragic fate that night. The truth remains hidden somewhere within the Corning Glassworks plant, locked behind a handful of grainy frames, a vanished man, and the silence of those who may have known more than they ever revealed. The strange disappearance of Suzanne Susie Lyle. The disappearance of Suzanne Susie Lyle remains one of the most haunting missing persons cases in modern New York history, a mystery defined by a quiet young woman, a routine bus ride, and a moment in time that slipped into the shadows. On the evening of the 2nd of March, 1998, 19-year-old Susie stepped off a bus only a short walk from her dorm at the State University of New York at Albany. She never made it back to her room. It was a disappearance so sudden and so complete that even decades later, investigators, loved ones, and members of the public still ponder how someone could vanish in such an ordinary setting without leaving a trace. Susie Lyle was born on the 6th of April, 1978, the youngest of 3 children to Doug and Mary Lyle. Growing up in Ballston Spa, she was recognized early for her intelligence, shyness, and introspective nature. Computers fascinated her from a young age, and she possessed a natural talent for understanding and building them. She joined a high school computer club where she met Richard Condon, a young man who would later become her long-term boyfriend. Despite being introverted, Susie's creative mind found solace in writing poetry, a quiet habit she used to express feelings she rarely shared aloud. She was close to her family, especially her brother Stephen, who shared her personality and interests. After graduating with honors in 1996, Susie began studying computer science at the State University of New York Oneonta, but soon transferred to the State University of New York Albany for a more challenging program. She supported herself through 2 part-time jobs, one at Babbage's in the Crossgates Mall and another at a computer company in Troy. She remained in daily communication with both her parents and Richard, whether through emails or calls, and her routine had a comforting consistency to those who knew her. In early March 1998, Susie was focused on her midterms. She was particularly anxious about one exam and told her mother she needed to excel to keep her high-grade point average intact. When she completed the test on the 2nd of March, she believed she had done reasonably well. Later, during her shift at Babbage's, she appeared quieter than usual but not distressed. After her shift ended, she boarded the bus as she always did. A fellow student later reported seeing her exit the bus at the Collins Circle stop around 9:45 that evening. It was only a short walk from there to her dorm in Colonial Quad. That simple, everyday moment was the last confirmed sighting of her. The next morning, the 3rd of March, Richard called the Lyle family with unsettling news. Susie had not returned to her dorm the previous night. She had not answered his calls or emails, something entirely unlike her. When Doug and Mary contacted campus security, they were initially met with dismissal. Campus police suggested it was not unusual for a college student to be out of touch for a day. Still, they agreed to check Susie's room. What they found only deepened the concern. Her belongings were neatly in place. Her hairdryer rested on her bed, her money and personal items remained untouched on her desk, and nothing indicated that she had planned to leave. It appeared she was fully intending to return, yet she never did. When Susie failed to attend classes or take her midterm exams afterward, something utterly out of character, campus police reconsidered their stance. The New York State Police were called in, and a formal investigation began. Doug and Mary worked closely with the university to offer a $15,000 reward for information, hoping it would prompt someone to come forward. By then, however, valuable time had been lost. A snowstorm during the days between her disappearance and the start of the investigation may have erased physical evidence. Her keycard had not been used anywhere on campus after the afternoon of the 2nd of March. Desperate for answers, her parents contacted her bank and learned that 3 withdrawals had been made from her account between the 2nd and 3rd of March. 2 of those withdrawals, made before she vanished, were for $20 each. Although this was Susie's usual amount, her mother found it odd that she would take out money twice in the same day, a habit she never had. The 3rd withdrawal, however, was the most chilling. It occurred on the 3rd of March, the day after she went missing, at a Stewart's Shops ATM in Albany. Investigators believed Susie had not been the one to make that final withdrawal, raising the alarming question of who had her ATM card and her PIN. Stranger still, Richard revealed that he was the only other person who knew her PIN number. This revelation would later raise suspicion, although no definitive evidence tied him to the withdrawal. A man seen near the ATM around the time of the transaction, nicknamed Nike Man for his hat, was sought by police, questioned, and ultimately deemed unrelated, though detectives could not entirely rule him out. 2 months after Susie vanished, a disturbing yet puzzling discovery was made. Her older Babbage's name tag was spotted in a parking lot about 30 yards from the bus stop, on the opposite side from her dorm. Its presence was baffling. It was not the name tag she had been wearing at the time of her disappearance, and no one knew if it had recently been dropped or had been lying there unnoticed. Yet the placement suggested movement away from her dorm rather than toward it, adding to the sense that her disappearance may have involved another person. Investigators dug into leads, searching around 300 acres of land and reviewing more than 270 tips. Despite these efforts, the case quickly stalled. A co-worker from Babbage's reported that Susie had mentioned being watched or followed by an unknown man in the weeks before she vanished. Although she reportedly did not seem afraid of him, this piece of information added a new layer of unease. The man was never identified, leaving open the question of whether his presence was connected to the events of that night. Richard Condon, Susie's boyfriend, became a central figure in the investigation due to several circumstances. Their relationship, according to Mary, had been rocky. Susie had reportedly tried to end it multiple times through letters, yet each time, Richard convinced her to stay with him. Additionally, he had remote access to her computer, an unusual detail that raised concerns about control. Richard claimed that he and Susie had recently become engaged, though this came as a shock to her family, who insisted she never mentioned such a milestone. Although he initially cooperated with the investigation and provided an alibi supported by a friend, he later retained a lawyer and refused further interviews or a polygraph. Police could not dismiss him completely as a suspect, yet no evidence ever emerged directly linking him to her disappearance. In time, the Lyle family transformed their pain into advocacy. Doug and Mary successfully pushed for the passage of Suzanne's Law in 2003, requiring immediate reporting of missing persons between the ages of 18 and 21 to the National Crime Information Center. They founded the Center for Hope, an organization supporting families of missing individuals, ensuring that Susie's legacy included efforts to protect others from the delays and missteps that plagued her case. Tragically, Doug Lyle passed away in 2015, still carrying the weight of unanswered questions. Mary, along with Stephen and her older sister, has continued the search for truth, holding on to the hope that one day Susie will be brought home and given a proper resting place. The disappearance of Suzanne Lyle remains one of New York's most enduring mysteries. A young woman with promise and talent vanished in the short distance between a bus stop and her dormitory, leaving behind loving parents, loyal siblings, and a future forever interrupted. The unanswered questions surrounding her final moments, the unexplained ATM withdrawal, the name tag found months later, and the complex interpersonal connections in her life continue to fuel investigation and reflection. The unsolved mystery of who stole a 5-ton wrecking ball. On the morning of July 17, 1973, workers from the Dowling Construction Company arrived at their demolition site in Indianapolis, Indiana, only to find themselves faced with a baffling and frustrating mystery. Overnight, their 5-ton wrecking ball had vanished without a trace. The massive sphere of solid metal, which had been suspended from a crane approximately 200 feet in the air, had been seen intact and in place at 5 the previous evening. When the workers departed for the night, nothing seemed amiss, but by the time they returned, the enormous wrecking ball had disappeared without a single clue left behind. The Associated Press reported on the bizarre incident the following day, July 18, 1973, and the case quickly gained attention due to the sheer impossibility of the theft. The wrecking ball was an incredibly heavy and unwieldy object, making its sudden disappearance almost inconceivable. Moving such a weighty object without heavy machinery, a significant amount of manpower, and a great deal of noise should have made the theft nearly impossible to pull off unnoticed. Despite this, no one reported seeing anything suspicious that night, and there were no signs of a break-in or forced removal. The head of Dowling Construction, Lauren Dowling, was left completely bewildered. Not only was the theft itself perplexing, but the biggest question on everyone's mind was why anyone would steal a wrecking ball in the first place. A 5-ton metal sphere was not an object that could be easily sold, transported, or repurposed. Unlike other stolen construction materials such as copper wiring, tools, or machinery, which could be resold for profit, a wrecking ball was highly specialized equipment with limited use outside of its intended purpose. Even if someone had stolen it for scrap metal, moving and melting down such an enormous object would have been an unrealistic and difficult endeavor. Adding to the mystery, no physical evidence was left behind. There were no drag marks, no disturbances in the ground, and no traces of any heavy equipment that could have been used to move the wrecking ball. Given the urban location of the construction site, it seemed highly improbable that such an operation could have been carried out without attracting attention. The absence of any clear leads or logical explanations only deepened the mystery. Authorities launched an investigation, but they quickly found themselves at a dead end. There were no witnesses, no reports of suspicious activity, and no clear motive for the theft. The lack of surveillance cameras at the time further complicated matters, leaving the case without any visual evidence to analyze. Despite their best efforts, neither the police nor the construction company could find a single clue as to where the massive wrecking ball had gone. In the days and weeks following the theft, speculation ran wild. Some people theorized that it had been taken by rival construction companies in an act of industrial sabotage, though no competitors were ever linked to the crime. Others suggested that it could have been stolen by a group of pranksters, though the logistics of such an elaborate stunt seemed nearly impossible. Some even believed it was taken by a collector with a strange fascination for odd and oversized objects, though once again, no evidence ever surfaced to support such a claim. As time passed, the case slowly faded into obscurity. The Dowling Construction Company never recovered their wrecking ball, nor did they ever receive ransom demands, sightings, or leads on potential suspects. The bizarre theft remained one of the most inexplicable crimes in Indianapolis history. Unlike traditional heists, which typically involve cash, jewelry, or valuable goods, this crime seemed to have no clear incentive or explanation. Even today, the mystery remains unsolved, leaving those who hear about it to wonder how such an absurd crime could have been pulled off so successfully. The mysterious 1665 celestial phenomenon. The 1665 celestial phenomenon over Stralsund remains one of the most intriguing and unexplained events in history, often considered by modern researchers to be one of the earliest recorded UFO sightings. This extraordinary event took place in Stralsund, Swedish Pomerania, now part of Germany, where multiple witnesses reported seeing mysterious flying ships in the sky. The detailed descriptions provided at the time bear a striking resemblance to modern UFO encounters, making this an important case in the study of unidentified aerial phenomena. On April 8, 1665, the residents of Stralsund witnessed something they could not explain. A group of fishermen working near the Baltic Sea were the first to see the strange flying ships in the sky. These objects were described as being dark grey or shimmering with a hue similar to the rising moon. Witnesses also noted that some of the objects appeared to have domes resembling hats, while others were saucer-shaped like a plate. As they hovered above St. Nicholas Church, many onlookers grew fearful, believing they were witnessing an otherworldly event. One of the most extraordinary aspects of the event was the report of a battle in the sky. Several ships of varying sizes appeared to engage in combat, firing at one another with unknown weaponry. According to witness accounts, these strange flying vessels clashed for an extended period, moving with precision and speed unmatched by any known human technology of the time. This intense aerial battle took place directly above the Baltic Sea, leading many observers to believe that it was an omen from God or a supernatural warning. The fear among the people of Stralsund was palpable, as they had no way of understanding what they had just seen. As the battle progressed, several of the mysterious ships fell from the sky and disappeared into the sea. Those that remained hovering over Stralsund eventually vanished as night fell, leaving the town in a state of awe and confusion. What made this event even more mysterious was that no wreckage was ever recovered, and there were no reports of any known naval battles occurring in the region at the time. The sheer number of witnesses, including fishermen, clergy, and townsfolk, provided credibility to the accounts, making it difficult to dismiss the incident as mere folklore. The historical records of this event have puzzled researchers for centuries. Given the era in which it took place, there was no known human technology capable of producing flying ships or engaging in aerial combat. The descriptions of disc-shaped, dome-covered crafts bear an uncanny resemblance to the modern concept of UFOs, leading some to suggest that this may have been an extraterrestrial event. Others have theorized that the battle witnessed over the Baltic Sea could have been an otherworldly conflict, something far beyond human understanding. The 1665 Stralsund event remains one of the most compelling early examples of an unexplained aerial phenomenon. Unlike other historical anomalies, which are often based on second-hand accounts or mythological storytelling, this case was witnessed by many people and documented extensively. The similarities to modern UFO reports make it even more significant, as it suggests that such encounters have been occurring for centuries. If this event were to happen today, it would undoubtedly be classified as a mass UFO sighting and subject to intense scientific scrutiny. The mystery of the flying ships over Stralsund is one that continues to fascinate historians and UFO researchers alike. Whether it was an extraterrestrial event, an unknown atmospheric phenomenon, or something even more mysterious, the fact remains that multiple witnesses saw something truly extraordinary. The absence of any conventional explanation only adds to the intrigue, leaving future generations to wonder what really happened in the skies above Stralsund in 1665. The unsolved mystery of the Hackler family fires. The mystery of the Hackler family fires remains one of the most bizarre and unexplained events in Indiana's history. In 1940s, rural Indiana, the Hackler family's peaceful life was shattered when their home was suddenly plagued by a series of inexplicable fires that defied logical explanation. Over the course of a single day, 28 fires erupted in different parts of their farmhouse, leaving the family and authorities perplexed and alarmed. Despite extensive investigations, no cause was ever found, and to this day, the incident remains an unsolved mystery. The Hackler family, consisting of William and Minnie Hackler and their 5 children, resided in a historic 2-story wooden house built shortly after the Civil War. Nestled in the serene countryside of Daviess County, their home had a long history, dating back to the original owner, Marshall Ketchum, a pioneer from Tennessee. The family enjoyed a simple and idyllic rural life until one fateful summer morning when everything changed. It was an older child in the family who first noticed the smell of smoke. The family quickly sprang into action, trying to locate the source of the fire. When they found flames emerging from the wallpaper, they immediately called the fire department. Upon arrival, firefighters broke open the walls, expecting to find a faulty chimney or internal fire damage, but to their astonishment, there was no apparent source of combustion. The flames had burned only the wallpaper, leaving the surrounding wooden structure completely untouched. The fire was extinguished, but just hours later, another fire broke out, this time inside a mattress in an upstairs bedroom. The firefighters returned and put out the blaze, but their confusion grew as more fires began igniting throughout the house. Mr. Hackler's clothes, hanging on a door, spontaneously burst into flames, while books on a shelf started smouldering without explanation. The Odin Fire Department struggled to keep up, and soon they were forced to request assistance from neighboring fire brigades. Witnesses described the fires as appearing out of nowhere, and multiple credible individuals saw curtains burst into flames on their own. Yet the walls and window shades remained unscathed. Some reported that it seemed as if invisible hands were lighting matches throughout the house. The local fire marshal and investigators ruled out electrical faults, as the home had no electricity or power lines nearby. Additionally, no lightning strikes or atmospheric conditions could account for the sudden and continuous outbreaks of fire. As the fires continued, more than 100 firefighters and local residents worked tirelessly to extinguish each blaze. After 13 hours of battling flames, the fires finally ceased. By midnight, the exhausted Hackler family moved their beds outside, choosing to sleep under the open sky out of fear that the fires might reignite during the night. The following day, the fires did not return, leaving behind only questions and a shaken family. The Indiana State Fire Marshal, a seasoned investigator, called the Odin fires the most perplexing case of his career. Despite thorough investigations, no explanation was ever found, and the case remains one of the greatest mysteries in fire investigation history. Strangely, the house had a dark past. In the 1880s, a family of 5 who had lived there perished from a mysterious illness known as burning fever. Later, another farmer who moved in lost 2 sons in unrelated hunting accidents. These eerie coincidences led some to speculate that the Hackler home was cursed or haunted by unseen forces. Ultimately, the Hackler family made a drastic decision. Fearing another unexplained catastrophe, they dismantled their home piece by piece and rebuilt it in a different location. After the move, no further fires were ever reported, leaving many to wonder if the fires were linked to the land itself. Decades later, the story of the Hackler fires remains unsolved. Regardless of the explanation, the event remains one of the strangest and most chilling unsolved mysteries in Indiana's history. The unsolved mystery of Zygmunt Adamski. Zygmunt Adamski's case remains one of the most baffling unsolved mysteries in modern British history. A Polish-born miner working at the Lofthouse Colliery in West Yorkshire, Adamski was living a quiet and routine life when, on June 6, 1980, he vanished without a trace. His disappearance seemed completely ordinary at first. He had simply left his home in Tingley to buy some potatoes. However, what followed was a strange series of events that led to his body being discovered under mysterious circumstances 5 days later. On June 11, 1980, Adamski's lifeless body was found lying face up on a stack of anthracite coal in Todmorden, a town where he had no known connections. The placement of his body was highly unusual, as if he had been deliberately placed there. His clothes were in good condition, though his shirt was missing, and there were no signs of a struggle. Strangely, forensic examination suggested that Adamski had not been wandering in the days he was missing. His body showed no signs of prolonged exposure to the elements, and he appeared well fed, suggesting that someone had been caring for him. His beard growth was also inconsistent with his time missing, showing only 1 day's worth of stubble, further deepening the mystery. A post-mortem examination was conducted at 9:15 in the evening by Dr. Alan Edwards, a consultant pathologist at the Royal Halifax Infirmary. He concluded that Adamski had died between 11 and 1 in the afternoon, on the same day his body was found. The official cause of death was listed as a heart attack. However, what troubled investigators the most were the unusual burn marks on Adamski's neck and head. These burns appeared to have been sustained 2 days before his death, yet they had an unknown ointment applied to them, a substance forensic scientists were unable to identify. The presence of this unidentified greenish ointment led to speculation about Adamski's final days. If he had been injured, where had he been treated? Who had applied the ointment? Despite rigorous testing at the State Forensic Laboratory in Wetherby, West Yorkshire, the substance could not be matched to any known medical or industrial compound. This only fueled the growing number of theories surrounding the case, some of which extended beyond conventional explanations. One of the most unusual aspects of Adamski's case was the involvement of police officer Alan Godfrey. Godfrey, who was among the first on the scene when Adamski's body was discovered, later had his own strange encounter. In November of 1980, just months after Adamski's death, Godfrey reported witnessing an unidentified flying object while on patrol in Todmorden. This sighting, combined with Adamski's unexplained disappearance, unusual injuries, and apparent lack of time spent outdoors, led some to suggest that Adamski had been the victim of a UFO encounter. Some theorists speculated that Adamski had been taken by extraterrestrial beings, treated in some unknown way, and then returned under circumstances beyond human understanding. One suggestion is that Adamski had been kidnapped and held against his will for unknown reasons before being left on the coal pile. Another theory suggests that he may have been the victim of an elaborate cover-up, potentially involving secret medical or governmental experiments. However, no concrete evidence has ever been presented to support these claims. Another theory points to the possibility of Adamski being involved in a personal dispute or some kind of foul play. Some investigators have speculated that he may have been taken by someone he knew, possibly over a disagreement, and that his injuries were a result of this encounter. Yet, there were no clear suspects, no known enemies, and no definitive signs of struggle or violence. Adamski's case was further complicated by the lack of a formal resolution. His passing was not officially registered until the autumn of 1980, several months after his body was discovered. By that point, any potential leads had gone cold, and those closest to the case were left with more questions than answers. The mystery remains one of the most mysterious cases in British history, with no definitive explanation for what truly happened to him. Despite various theories and continued public interest, no concrete evidence has ever emerged to explain Adamski's disappearance, death, or the peculiar details surrounding his case. Theories ranging from alien abduction to secret government experiments, foul play, or even an unknown medical condition continue to be debated. Yet, to this day, the case of Zygmunt Adamski remains unsolved, a haunting mystery that leaves more questions than answers. The mystery of the Kosovo student poisoning. The Kosovo student poisoning remains one of the most mysterious and unsettling events in modern history. On March 22, 1990, nearly 8,000 Kosovar school students suddenly fell ill after being exposed to an unknown toxic substance in their schools. The event, initially referred to as the mysterious disease, caused students to faint, suffer from violent convulsions, experience eye inflammation, and developed distinct facial flushing. The illness persisted throughout the rest of the year, affecting a total of 7,421 Albanian Kosovars. Despite decades of investigations, no definitive explanation has been provided for what truly happened. The lack of information surrounding the incident led to widespread fear and speculation. Doctors and researchers from various countries, including Albania and France, attempted to determine the cause of the poisoning, but they encountered numerous obstacles. One of the leading investigators, Dr. Bernard Benedetti, a physician working with Médecins du Monde, collected samples from the affected students and had them analyzed in 2 separate laboratories in France. The findings suggested the presence of a toxic substance similar to the pesticide lindane, a chemical known for its neurological and physiological effects on humans. However, these results were never officially accepted, and the true source of the contamination remains a subject of debate. In the immediate aftermath, Albanian doctors pleaded with Serbian authorities to conduct an independent international investigation into the events. However, this request was denied, deepening suspicions that political motives may have played a role in the refusal to uncover the truth. Albanian students were even denied medical care, with Serbian officials accusing them of fabricating the symptoms for political gain. This dismissal of the victims' suffering only fueled further resentment and widened the ethnic tensions already present in the region. Rumors quickly circulated throughout Kosovo that critical blood analysis samples sent to Ljubljana had mysteriously gone missing. Some reports claimed that the samples were deliberately discarded, preventing further analysis. A team of Albanian doctors writing for The Lancet, a respected medical journal, admitted that the blood tests never arrived at their intended destination. This revelation raised serious concerns about whether the incident was being covered up and whether there was an attempt to conceal crucial evidence from the international community. If mass poisoning had indeed occurred in Kosovo, there should have been clear indications of how the poison was introduced. According to Halim Hysseini, a researcher investigating the case, there were suspicious incidents involving unauthorized individuals entering school buildings shortly before the outbreak. Some of these individuals were reportedly arrested, but no information was ever publicly released about their identities or intentions. There were also claims of a mysterious powder being found on the floors of some schools, leading to speculation that the poison was deliberately spread in a targeted attack. Dr. Benedetti, who had obtained a test tube containing the unknown powder from activists in Kosovo, found that the substance closely matched samples from a school in Podujevo where similar poisoning symptoms had been reported. This connection between separate schools raised further questions about whether the incident was a coordinated act rather than a coincidental outbreak of illness. One of the most puzzling aspects of the case is the sheer scale of the event. If the poisoning was intentional, it would have required a significant operation involving the distribution of toxic agents across multiple schools and the ability to evade detection by authorities. The fact that no concrete evidence has ever been presented to explain how the poison was introduced or who was responsible makes this case all the more mysterious. The political climate of the time must also be considered when analyzing this event. Kosovo in 1990 was experiencing high tensions between ethnic Albanians and Serbs, with Serbian authorities tightening their control over the region. Some researchers have suggested that the poisoning incident was part of a larger political strategy aimed at creating fear and instability. Others believe that an unknown environmental factor or an accidental contamination could have been responsible. However, the failure to conduct a transparent investigation has left more questions than answers. In the years since the poisoning, no official report has ever been able to fully explain the cause of the illness. Despite extensive research, no conclusive toxic agent has been identified, and no individuals have ever been held accountable. The event remains one of the largest unexplained mass poisonings in history. Many victims and their families continue to seek answers and justice, but the passage of time has made it increasingly difficult to uncover the truth. Without a proper investigation, the Kosovo student poisoning remains a chilling and unresolved mystery, one that serves as a reminder of how history can sometimes be shrouded in secrecy and uncertainty. Even today, the mystery persists, and those who remember the events of 1990 continue to question what truly happened. The silence surrounding the case, the lack of international scrutiny, and the numerous inconsistencies suggest that the answers may never be fully revealed. What is clear, however, is that the events of that day left an indelible mark on those affected and remain one of the most bizarre and unsettling medical mysteries in recent history. The mysterious case of Ricky McCormick. Ricky McCormick, aged 41, was found in a cornfield 20 miles outside of St. Louis, Missouri, on June 30, 1999. Except for the 2 pages of notes in his pockets, McCormick's passing may have gone unreported due to his living conditions and health issues. McCormick's notes, written in complex, impenetrable code, have long baffled professional and amateur codebreakers. Many people are certain that the notes discovered on McCormick's body contain the clue to his unexplained passing, despite his family's insistence that he could hardly spell, much less figure out a secret code. However, there is more to Ricky McCormick's case than first meets the eye. Those who knew Ricky McCormick claimed that he may have been dealing substances and that he had connections to a number of sketchy characters. Ricky McCormick appeared to have had health issues from an early age. According to news outlets, he acted abnormally, recounted unusual stories, and stood alone during playtime. According to Gloria McCormick, Ricky's favorite aunt, a psychiatrist said he had a brick wall in his mind. According to him, Ricky declined to breach the wall, and he had a vivid imagination and disliked living in poverty. When McCormick left high school, he was hardly able to write or read. News outlets reported that McCormick's family said he was unable to spell and would instead scribble. According to his cousin, McCormick acted like he was in another world, and although many who have studied this case have suggested that he was misunderstood and used his own writing style to express himself, something that the FBI would end up agreeing with. McCormick, who didn't have a high school diploma, took up a variety of low-paying jobs, generally at night. His meager earnings and the benefits he received for his ongoing heart problems allowed him to survive. However, McCormick would find himself in trouble with the law in 1992. Following his guilty plea, Ricky McCormick was imprisoned for 13 months in the Farmington Correctional Center, but his problems would only get worse after he came out. Ricky McCormick obtained a graveyard shift job at an Amoco petrol station in downtown St. Louis after being released from prison. He encountered a number of dubious characters there who might have contributed to his unexplained passing. Juma and Baha Bob Hamdallah, 2 brothers, were in charge of the Amoco. Both were known for their harsh treatment of people, and McCormick made a few odd visits to Florida while working for them. Later, his girlfriend reported to the police that he appeared afraid and that she thought he was smuggling a substance for the Hamdallah brothers. McCormick began acting strangely in mid-June 1999, not long after his last trip to Florida. According to investigators, McCormick went to 2 different emergency departments between June 22nd and June 25th to complain of chest pain. He was last spotted at the Amoco petrol station on June 27th. After that, Ricky McCormick vanished. At first, nobody took attention, and he was not reported missing by anyone. It wasn't until June 30th, 20 miles from McCormick's residence and workplace, that he was found in a field. Even though McCormick's cause of passing was not determined by a medical examiner, investigators believed that foul play had played a role in his demise. According to investigators, Captain David Tiefenbrunn, the St. Charles County Police Department's Bureau Commander of Criminal Investigations, described the situation as puzzling. If there were no leads, Ricky McCormick's passing might have gotten lost in the shadows. However, something odd was later discovered by the police in his pockets. Upon investigating Ricky McCormick's case, the police discovered 2 pages of handwritten notes that were encoded in some sort of language. The FBI's Cryptanalysis and Racketeering Records Unit received the notes, but even its skilled codebreakers were unable to decipher it. Dan Olson, the chief of Cryptanalysis and Racketeering Records Unit, said that they don't often have an unsolved cipher of this length and significance. The personas are not arbitrary. For example, there are numerous E's that can be utilized as spaces. There are numerous traits and patterns that point to the possibility of a solution. They don't know why it can't be solved, which is the difficulty. According to the FBI website, there are 4 processes involved in breaking a code: identifying the language, the system, the key, which is moving each letter to the right in the alphabet, and reconstructing the text. However, the FBI could only proceed to step 2 using McCormick's notes. Therefore, The FBI requested assistance from amateur codebreakers in March 2011 after making the public aware of McCormick's notes. Advice started to pour in, and various news outlets said that codebreakers claimed to have found references to hospitals, the name Seth, and prescription reminders in McCormick's notes. However, the McCormick family wasn't persuaded. They expressed skepticism regarding McCormick's ability to write in code, having learned about the codes alongside the general population. According to a family relative, McCormick didn't write in code. However, other family members recalled that McCormick had written in codes when he was younger. Ricky McCormick's code hasn't been cracked as of yet. It's uncertain if the code was written by him or by someone else. Mystery airships. Between November 1876 and May 1897, reports of mysterious large airships began to surface across the United States, with many researchers suggesting that these were early UFO sightings. The phenomenon was widely documented in newspapers of the time, with reports describing massive unknown craft flying through the skies, often witnessed by large groups of people. The accounts varied, but many agreed that these airships were unlike any known technology of the time. Given that no documented test flights of powered airships or airplanes existed during this period, the sightings have remained one of the most puzzling mysteries in aviation history. The first widely publicized sightings of these airships began in the 1870s, with sporadic reports coming from California and the Midwest. Witnesses described seeing large metallic craft hovering in the sky, emitting strange lights and occasionally producing mechanical noises. Some accounts even suggested that the airships were piloted by human-like figures, leading to wild speculation about their origins and purpose. Unlike conventional balloons or dirigibles of the era, these airships were reportedly capable of rapid acceleration, sharp turns, and sustained flight, feats that were impossible for human technology at the time. As sightings increased throughout the 1890s, newspapers began covering the phenomenon with genuine curiosity. Reports of enormous, cigar-shaped crafts traveling great distances at high speeds were documented in states such as Texas, Illinois, Iowa, and Kansas. The descriptions were remarkably consistent, with witnesses detailing brilliant lights, metallic hulls, and advanced maneuvering capabilities. Many articles openly speculated about the origins of these crafts, with some suggesting that secret inventors or foreign governments were responsible, while others believed the objects were of extraterrestrial origin. Skeptics have long argued that the mystery airships could have been misidentified objects, such as early experimental balloons or astronomical phenomena. However, no documented evidence supports the existence of dirigibles capable of long-range powered flight in the United States during this period. The first officially recorded manned, controlled, powered heavier-than-air flight did not take place until December 17, 1903, when the Wright brothers achieved their historic flight at Kitty Hawk. Given this historical timeline, it remains unclear what exactly people were witnessing in the skies during the late 19th century. One of the most famous sightings occurred in April 1897 in Aurora, Texas, where an airship was reportedly seen crashing near a farm. According to the local newspaper, the wreckage contained metallic debris and the badly burned body of a humanoid pilot. The being was described as small and not of this world, leading to widespread speculation that the Aurora crash was an early UFO incident. The wreckage was said to have been buried in a local graveyard, though no physical evidence remains today. Reports of mystery airships continued sporadically until May 1897, when the sightings abruptly stopped. The disappearance of the phenomenon has led some researchers to speculate that whatever force was behind the sightings had completed its observations and departed. Others suggest that the airships could have been an early example of experimental technology being tested in secrecy. But this theory raises the question, why would such technology remain hidden for decades after the sightings? If such advanced airships existed in the late 1800s, their capabilities would have revolutionized aviation, yet history records no such breakthroughs until the 20th century. Many UFO researchers consider the mystery airship phenomenon to be one of the earliest documented waves of UFO sightings in modern history. The descriptions of metallic, structured craft, advanced flight capabilities, and even reported humanoid occupants closely mirror contemporary UFO encounters. If these craft were extraterrestrial, it would suggest that visitors have been observing Earth for far longer than previously thought. The similarities between 19th-century airship sightings and modern UFO reports raise questions about whether humanity has been under long-term surveillance by an unknown intelligence. To this day, the mystery of the airships remains unsolved. While some dismiss the sightings as fabrications or misidentifications, the sheer number of reports, spanning multiple states and involving thousands of witnesses, suggests something far more complex. Whether the airships were extraterrestrial in origin, secret human technology, or a phenomenon beyond human comprehension, their appearance in the late 19th century challenges our understanding of history and aviation. The Smithsonian Institution has maintained that the Wright brothers' 1903 flight was the first true example of powered flight, making it impossible that the airships were conventional aircraft. This means that either a lost inventor created technology decades ahead of its time, or the objects were not of human origin. The fact that no records, blueprints, or credible claims of secret airships from that era exist only deepens the mystery. The mysterious disappearance of Tammy Lynn Leppert. Tammy Lynn Leppert was embarking on a burgeoning modeling and acting career in the early 1980s. With her blonde hair and hazel eyes, she embarked on her modeling career by participating in beauty pageants at the tender age of 4, winning an impressive total of 280 crowns. She began her film career in 1983. At the age of 18, she aspired to pursue her acting career in Hollywood in 1983. However, regrettably, her aspirations were never fulfilled. She departed from her mother's residence in Rockledge, Florida, on the morning of July 6, 1983, and thereafter disappeared without any further sightings. Shortly before she vanished, her mother gave testimony indicating that she had been exhibiting peculiar behavior and seemed to be experiencing inner turmoil. After 4 days of filming the movie Scarface, she exhibited such unpredictable behavior upon returning home that her mother decided to take her to the hospital for a psychiatric evaluation. Tammy Lynn Leppert was placed under the doctor's supervision for a duration of 3 days before being discharged, as there was no substantiated proof of misuse or any other discernible physical conditions. As reported by her mother, she had signs of paranoia and anxiety, demonstrating a refusal to consume food or beverages from unsealed containers, and maintaining a constant state of suspicion that someone intended to harm her. Significantly, on the morning she vanished, she had neglected to groom her hair prior to departing the residence, a behavior that her mother deemed highly uncharacteristic. She had accompanied an unknown male companion who was the final individual to witness her existence. According to his account, they engaged in a dispute and he left her alone at a parking lot near an Exxon gas station off State Road A1A in Cocoa Beach, Florida. Tammy Lynn Leppert's final known attire consisted of a blue denim skirt and a blue top adorned with floral appliques. She was also carrying a grey purse and wearing sandals. Several tales have reported that witnesses saw her without shoes shortly before she vanished, although these reports were never confirmed. There were other conjectures that she might have been in her first trimester of pregnancy at the time of her vanishing. Leppert's mother asserted that she harboured fear towards the male acquaintance who had given her a ride on that particular day, and she believed he should have been regarded as a potential suspect. Nevertheless, the police said that he was not a plausible suspect, and no formal accusations were ever brought against him. The police inquiry ultimately led them to a man named Christopher Wilder, who was accountable for the homicides and vanishings of numerous young ladies in the Florida region during the early to mid-1980s. He had a reputation for tricking his female victims into coming to his house by pretending to offer them modeling opportunities. This deception may have led Tammy Lynn Leppert, a well-known model, to go with him. The Leppert family initially initiated legal proceedings against Wilder, but ultimately decided to withdraw the allegations. Wilder met his demise in 1984 following an exchange of gunfire with law enforcement, and the authorities were unable to definitively establish his connection to Leppert's vanishing. Tammy Lynn. Leppert's excessive suspicion caused her mother to suspect that her disappearance was connected to a more malevolent and threatening situation. She held the belief that her daughter had become entangled in a nearby money transfer organization and subsequently became a target of the criminal group due to her extensive knowledge of their activities. Nevertheless, these theories remained unverifiable. Tammy Lynn Leppert's mother passed away in 1995, and to this day, the mystery surrounding her disappearance remains unsolved. The unsolved case of Jaspal and Geeta Singh. The case of Jaspal and Geeta Singh remains one of the most unsettling unsolved crimes in recent history. The Singh family, an Indian-American household living in Georgia, consisted of 46-year-old Jaspal, 38-year-old Geeta, and their two sons, 13-year-old Pulkit and 12-year-old Ankur. The family was well respected in their community, and by all accounts, they lived a peaceful life. However, their world was shattered on January 23, 2007, when Jaspal and Geeta were slain inside their home. That morning, Geeta kissed and hugged Ankur before he left for school, a seemingly ordinary moment that would later become one of his last memories of his mother. After a normal school day, Josh and Ankur returned home, only to find that their parents were not answering the door. This was highly uncharacteristic, raising immediate concern. Using a spare key, they entered the house, unaware of the horrifying discovery they were about to make. Inside, they found Jaspal lying motionless on the floor, an unsettling sight that caused immediate panic. As they rushed further inside, Ankur noticed blood beneath his father's head, confirming that something terrible had happened. The boys made their way upstairs, where they found Geeta's lifeless body in the middle of a ransacked bedroom. Their parents had been brutally shot to death, turning what had been a loving home into a crime scene. Investigators arrived at the Singh residence and quickly ruled out that they had done this to themselves, as there was no weapon near either of the bodies. The only known stolen items were birthday cards containing money, which made the crime even more puzzling. If robbery was the motive, it seemed highly unlikely that the perpetrator would leave behind other valuables. This led authorities to speculate about possible personal motives, but no clear suspects ever emerged. Following the loss of their parents, Jaspal's brother, Yoginder Singh, took in the two boys, doing his best to provide them with a sense of normalcy after the tragedy. However, the emotional trauma left a lasting impact, particularly on Josh, who struggled for years with the weight of his grief. In 2014, he took his own life, a heartbreaking loss that added another layer of tragedy to the Singh family's already devastating story. Despite efforts by law enforcement, the case of Jaspal and Geeta Singh remains unsolved. The case, which left two young boys orphaned, continues to haunt those who knew the family. To this day, there are no known suspects, no arrests, and no clear answers as to who committed this crime or why. The mystery of the anomaly on the Moon. In 2020, the Chinese Space Agency's rover made a stunning discovery on the far side of the Moon, a mysterious cube-shaped anomaly. The anomaly was spotted in images taken by the rover's onboard camera as it explored the von Karman crater, a large impact basin on the Moon's far side. The discovery immediately sparked intrigue and speculation about what the anomaly could be and how it got there. The cube-shaped object measures approximately 2.5 meters, or 8 feet across, and appears to be composed of a shiny, reflective material that stands out against the dull, rocky lunar terrain. It is perfectly symmetrical, with sharp, well-defined edges, and appears to be resting on the surface of the Moon. Its reflective surface has led some to speculate that it could be made of metal, which would be a remarkable discovery, as metal is not known to occur naturally on the Moon. The discovery of the cube-shaped anomaly has sparked a flurry of theories and speculation about what it could be. Some have suggested that it could be a piece of space debris or a remnant from an ancient lunar civilization. Others have speculated that it could be a natural formation that has been eroded by millions of years of lunar weathering. One popular theory is that the anomaly could be a metallic meteorite that landed on the Moon's surface. Meteorites are known to contain a wide range of metals, including iron and nickel, which could explain the cube's reflective surface. However, this theory has been challenged by some experts who argue that the cube's symmetrical shape is too perfect to have been formed by natural processes. Another theory is that the cube-shaped anomaly is a remnant of an ancient lunar civilization that was capable of advanced metallurgy and engineering. This theory is supported by the fact that the cube appears to be perfectly symmetrical and has sharp, well-defined edges, which would be difficult to achieve without advanced technology. The Chinese Space Agency revealed that the object turned out to be a rock, going on to release further photographs of the object. However, many didn't buy this, and said that the two images looked nothing alike, which further promoted theorists to suggest that something strange was going on, and that the object was perhaps something much more mysterious. The discovery of the cube-shaped anomaly is a reminder of how little we know about our own moon and the mysteries that still await us. As space exploration continues to advance, it is likely that many more mysteries will be uncovered, providing us with new insights into the nature of our universe and the origins of life on Earth. The mysterious objects that keep being spotted above US Navy destroyers. In 2019, a series of mysterious drones were spotted flying over US Navy destroyers at night, causing concern and confusion among sailors and officials. The drones appeared to be relatively small, with some describing them as being oval-shaped and detailed that they exhibited advanced capabilities, including the ability to fly at high speeds and to hover in place. Despite extensive investigation by the Navy and the FBI, the source and purpose of the drones remain unknown. The first reported sighting of the drones occurred on July 14, 2019, when crew members of the USS Kidd, a Navy destroyer, reported seeing two drones flying over the ship in the middle of the night. Over the next several weeks, similar sightings were reported by crews of other Navy destroyers, including the USS Russell and the USS Rafael Peralta, as well as by civilian pilots in the region. The Navy and the FBI launched a joint investigation into the sightings, but were unable to determine the source of the drones. They were not able to trace the drones back to any known country or organization, and there was no evidence of malicious intent or intelligence gathering. Some theories suggested that the drones were being operated by foreign military operations or a test of new technology, but no country has claimed responsibility for the drones. The sightings of the mystery drones eventually tapered off, and there have been no new reports since early 2020. The incident remains a mystery, leaving officials and the public to wonder who or what was behind the strange and advanced aerial vehicles that buzzed US Navy destroyers in the middle of the night. Some have suggested that they may have been unidentified submerged objects. Unidentified submerged objects are a type of unidentified object that are seen entering and leaving bodies of water, such as oceans, rivers, and lakes. These mysterious underwater objects have been reported for centuries, with many sightings and encounters recorded by sailors, fishermen, and divers. Despite the growing number of reported sightings, the nature and origin of USOs remain unknown and continue to intrigue both the public and the scientific community. The earliest known report of a USO was made by the Greek philosopher Plato in his dialogues Timaeus and Critias, where he describes the lost city of Atlantis sinking into the sea. Since then, there have been numerous reports of strange underwater objects and lights seen moving at high speeds, diving into the water, or emerging from it. One of the most famous cases of USOs was in 1967, where a large object was seen crashing into the ocean off the coast of Nova Scotia, Canada, and disappearing beneath the waves. In recent years, the number of reported USO sightings has increased, with many reported by military personnel and pilots. In 2019, the US Navy confirmed the authenticity of 3 videos taken by pilots showing USOs moving at high speeds and performing maneuvers that are beyond the capability of current aircraft technology. These sightings have led to increased interest and research into the phenomenon. Several theories have been put forward to explain the nature of USOs, including advanced technology, secret military experiments, and natural phenomena. Some researchers believe that USOs could be part of a larger phenomenon, including other unexplained phenomena such as crop circles and animal mutilations. Despite the growing number of sightings and interest in the subject, USOs remain a mystery. The lack of concrete evidence and the difficulty of investigating underwater sightings make it challenging to study and understand these mysterious objects. However, continued research and investigation into USOs may one day provide answers to some of the most intriguing questions about our world and the universe beyond. The mystery of the Devil's Pool in Australia. The Devil's Pool is a natural swimming hole located in the Babinda Boulders in Queensland, Australia. While the pool is surrounded by beautiful scenery, It is also known for its mysterious and sometimes dangerous reputation. The pool has been the site of numerous unexplained deaths and ghost sightings, leading many to believe that the Devil's Pool is haunted. The Devil's Pool is located in an area that is steeped in Aboriginal mythology. According to legend, the area was once home to a beautiful young woman named Ulana, who fell in love with a mortal man. Ulana's father, a powerful shaman, disapproved of the relationship and forbade Ulana from seeing her lover. The couple defied the shaman's orders and continued to meet in secret, but when Ulana's father discovered their relationship, he was consumed by rage and used his magic to separate the two lovers forever. According to the legend, Ulana was transformed into the waters of the Babinda boulders, and her lover was swept away by the current and drowned. The pool where Ulana's lover drowned is said to be the Devil's Pool, and many believe that the spirits of the two lovers still haunt the area. Over the years, numerous visitors to the Devil's Pool have reported strange and unexplained phenomena. Some have claimed to see the ghostly figure of a young woman walking along the water's edge, while others have reported hearing strange noises and feeling a strong sense of unease. The most famous incident associated with the Devil's Pool occurred in the 1950s, when a group of teenagers went swimming in the pool. One of the teenagers was swept away by the current. According to eyewitnesses, he was dragged under the water by an unseen force and disappeared without a trace. Many believe that his passing was caused by the vengeful spirits of Ulana and her lover. Despite the many dangers associated with the Devil's Pool, it remains a popular tourist destination. Visitors are advised to exercise caution and avoid swimming in the pool during periods of heavy rainfall or strong currents. While the origins of the hauntings at Devil's Pool may never be fully understood, the legend of Ulana and her lover continues to capture the imagination of visitors to this mysterious and haunted location. The mystery of the cryptogram of Olivier Levasseur. The cryptogram of Olivier Levasseur is a cryptic puzzle that has intrigued treasure hunters and codebreakers since the 18th century. Olivier Levasseur was a French pirate who roamed the seas in the late 17th and early 18th century. He was known as the Buzzard and was feared for his ruthless tactics. In 1730, Levasseur was captured and hanged in Réunion, an island in the Indian Ocean. As he stood on the gallows, he reportedly threw a piece of parchment into the crowd and said, "Find my treasure, the one who may understand it." The parchment contained a cryptogram that was believed to hold the secret to the location of Levasseur's hidden treasure. The cryptogram consists of 22 lines of code, with each line containing a series of symbols, including letters, numbers, and pictograms. The symbols are arranged in a way that suggests there is a hidden message or pattern. Over the years, many treasure hunters and codebreakers have attempted to decipher the cryptogram, but to no avail. Some have claimed to have cracked the code, only to have their solutions debunked by others. Despite the cryptogram's mysterious nature, some believe that it contains clues that could lead to the discovery of Levasseur's treasure. According to legend, the treasure is said to be worth millions of dollars and includes gold, silver, and jewels. In recent years, interest in the cryptogram has surged, with some even organizing treasure hunts and competitions to try and crack the code. In conclusion, the cryptogram of Olivier Levasseur remains a mystery to this day. The Ghost Ship of Topsail Island. The Ghost Ship of Topsail Island is a mystery that has captivated the imaginations of many over the years. It is said to be a ship that appears out of nowhere, then disappears just as quickly. Many have claimed to see the ship, and some even claim to have heard the ghostly sounds of the crew. The story of the Ghost Ship of Topsail Island begins in the early 1800s, when ships were a common sight on the Atlantic Ocean. It is said that a pirate ship was cruising along the coast of North Carolina when it ran aground on Topsail Island. The crew tried to get the ship back out to sea, but they were unsuccessful. In the end, they abandoned the ship and disappeared into the night. Over the years, there have been many reports of a ghost ship sailing off the coast of Topsail Island. Some say that the ship is still stranded on the island, while others claim that it has been seen sailing out to sea. Many of those who have seen the ship describe it as an old wooden vessel with tattered sails and ghostly figures on deck. There are also reports of strange noises coming from the ship, such as the creaking of ropes and the sound of waves crashing against the hull. Some have even reported hearing the sounds of ghostly voices and music. Despite numerous attempts to investigate the sightings of the ghost ship of Topsail Island, no concrete evidence has been found. Some believe that the ship is nothing more than a legend, passed down through the generations. Others, however, remain convinced that there is something supernatural happening off the coast of Topsail Island. In recent years, there have been efforts to document the sightings of the ghost ship of Topsail Island and to uncover the truth behind the legend. Researchers have used high-tech equipment to scan the waters off the coast, but so far, nothing has been found. As of right now, the ghost ship of Topsail Island remains a mystery that continues to fascinate and intrigue people all over the world. While there are many theories as to what the ship is and where it came from, no one has been able to definitively prove its existence. Whether it is a legend or a real ghost ship, the mystery of the ghost ship of Topsail Island will likely continue to captivate people for generations to come. The mystery of Daniel Robinson. One of the most difficult to explain disappearances has had several private investigators wondering if the local police did enough during the investigation of a man named Daniel Robinson. Daniel Robinson, a young man of only 24 years, grew up in a large family of 4 children in Columbia, South Carolina. Throughout Daniel's entire life, he had been an avid outdoorsman, often going camping, spending time in the wilderness, and using his free time to play music while going on hikes throughout the nearby countryside. Back in 2019, Daniel Robinson, eager to get a job that allowed him to continue to explore the outdoors, finished his time at the College of Charleston and graduated with a bachelor's in archaeology. Although he hoped to have pursued his career in academia and work at archaeological sites from around the world, due to his hand injury, he was unable to find prolonged work in the field. Daniel's injury was caused by a strange birth defect, in which Daniel Robinson had been born with his right hand and forearm completely missing, resulting in a large stump slightly past his elbow. However, without letting this get the better of him, Daniel continued looking for an outdoors job and landed work for an engineering firm known as Matrix New World, which primarily handled performing inspections and management for the drilling and installing of new well water systems. By 2021, Daniel Robinson moved to Arizona and was on the second day of his new job when he seemed to have suddenly disappeared off the face of the planet. The last known person to have seen or interacted with Daniel Robinson was fellow pump technician by the name of Ken Elliott, who claimed to have worked with him on the 23rd of June, sometime around 9 in the morning, but noticed something really strange about Robinson's behavior. According to Ken Elliott, as they were working on the new well together, the workday was just beginning, and since Daniel Robinson was new, Elliott figured that he would make casual small talk with him as they continued their work. At first, Elliott talked about the heat and weather of Arizona and asked how Robinson was getting used to the change in climate compared to South Carolina. Robinson replied casually, but seemed to be generally disinterested in what Elliott was talking about, and appeared to have zoned out several times throughout the conversation, as if he was deep in thought. Elliott would give an interview to police about the encounter, describing Robinson as appearing to have been distracted. At this point, Elliott began to worry that there was something wrong with Robinson that would require him to call in his co-workers to make sure that safety regulations were maintained. However, before contacting anyone, Elliott continued to watch Robinson and said that he kept turning around and looking off into the desert. After less than an hour of working together, Elliott explained that Robinson suddenly walked to his vehicle without saying anything to anyone, sat in his car for a while, and then left the job site without a second's thought, all while still staring off into the desert and acting strangely. Elliott would say that he just turned around and walked back over to his Jeep and that he just assumed he was going to get something out of his vehicle, but said that Robinson opened the door, got in, sat down, put on his seatbelt, then he looked at him and just waved and then took off. Assuming that Robinson left because he was feeling unwell, Elliott paid no further attention to the interaction and waited a few hours before he called his co-workers to tell them about Robinson leaving early believing that Robinson would have already called ahead of time to let them know he was taking a sick day. Oddly enough, when Elliot called in, no one else had heard from Robinson that day and began to worry that something was wrong. A few hours later, the local police station, the Buckeye Police Department, were notified of Robinson's disappearance by the workplace. At the end of the workday, Elliot decided to follow Robinson's track while in his vehicle and discovered that they seemed to continue down to a rain-soaked dirt road that ended in a T-junction. However, rather than taking a left at the junction, taking Robinson back into Phoenix, Arizona, the tracks appeared to have gone off to the right of the junction, which would have taken Robinson's Jeep out further into the desert. The following day, on the 24th of June, police were sent to Robinson's residence to check up on him, but received no answer at the door. Despite believing that Robinson had possibly disappeared and was in trouble, the police did not believe that they had a valid enough reason to enter the home and decided to wait until the 7th of July before they would get a warrant to enter the home for investigation, nearly 2 weeks after his reported disappearance. Once police entered his home, it became apparent that Robinson had not been inside of his home for some time and that he and his vehicle were nowhere to be found for almost the 2 weeks since his disappearance. Immediately after discovering this, the Buckeye Police Station ordered a search and brought together UTVs, cadaver dogs, searchers walking on foot, and the Civil Air Patrol with the help from Phoenix Firebird helicopters. By this point in time, Robinson's friends and family from South Carolina traveled to Arizona to aid in the search, checking over an estimated 70 square miles from where Robinson's vehicle tracks were last seen. Oddly enough, Buckeye police detectives claimed to have gotten a ping off of Robinson's phone, but were unable to track the device for some unknown reason, but believed that it could have been caused by the phone having shut off after running out of power. After nearly a month of searching, on the 19th of July, 2021, an overturned Jeep was discovered in a ditch within the 70 square mile searching area. Oddly enough, the vehicle had been in a location that was claimed to have already been searched. The Buckeye Police Department provided a statement that they believed that the vehicle could have been in the ditch from before the search, since the location of the vehicle was below the horizon viewpoint and could easily have been missed by aerial vehicles and people searching by foot. However, others believe that the vehicle must have been hit several times and then planted in the ditch, as it had not been seen on previous searches, and the person who discovered it claimed that the vehicle must have been new, given the fact that it was exceptionally clean compared to other material left in the Sonoran Desert. The man who found it, a local rancher by the name of Brandon Shelton, provided the statement that he believed the vehicle was new because it was clean, and because had it been in the area for over a month, his cows would have already found it and licked it, since cows are inquisitive creatures and constantly lick everything they deem out of the ordinary. When detectives investigated the crashed vehicle, they found that both of the airbags had been deployed and the seatbelt had been worn, but no one was found inside or near the vehicle. The only other sign of Daniel Robinson having been anywhere near the vehicle was when they found Daniel's size 11.5 Red Wing work boots smashed underneath the vehicle. Even more peculiar, the vehicle was located less than 4 miles from the work site. The police report would later describe another strange facet, in that it appeared that all of the objects left inside the vehicle would have been useful for Robinson if he had ended up in trouble, but seemed completely untouched. The vehicle and the surrounding area was searched, but no blood or signs of Robinson were located anywhere in the area. On the 31st of July, 2021, a human skull was discovered within a few miles of the location, but was later proven by investigators not to have belonged to Daniel Robinson. The official police investigation believes that Daniel Robinson had experienced something traumatic that led him to drive out into the Sonoran Desert, crash his vehicle, and then walk on foot, leaving behind his clothes and personal belongings for some unknown reason. When detectives got access to Robinson's cell phone and looked at his text history, they discovered that a week prior to his accident, he had delivered some food via Instacart to a woman named Caitlin. The police then discovered that at the time of the food delivery, Caitlin and her friend were drunk and decided to invite Daniel Robinson inside to play video games with them all night. Several days later, Robinson would show up again and send a series of texts to the woman saying that he loved her. Caitlin then replied and told Robinson that she felt uncomfortable with him randomly showing up at her house and that they would not be hanging out again anytime soon. Frustrated by this, Robinson returned to her home unannounced a few days later. Caitlin would then text Robinson to leave her alone. 33 hours later, Robinson would disappear.